Hi, I'm Jordan from Kettner Creative. In this video, we're going to show you how to set up and connect the Rode PodMic to the GoXLR audio interface. We're going to show you what settings I would use and how I would recommend setting this up with your software for live streaming. If you are looking for pricing or specs for anything that you see in this video as we connect and set everything up, we do have links down in the description below with current up-to-date pricing at a variety of online retailers. So if you are looking to buy anything, please do check out those links and it'll help you find the best price possible. Now, the Rode PodMic is designed for vocal recording. It's a good looking, very popular microphone that a lot of people use for live streaming. And likewise, the GoXLR adds a lot of functionality for live streaming. It's a purpose-built device that's really good at handling audio for a variety of online live streams. So hopefully you do already kind of know what these are. We're not going to talk about them a lot. We're just going to get right into setting them up with the best settings possible. So first of all, we're going to connect the Rode PodMic to the GoXLR. Now when we do that, don't use a cable like this that would go XLR from the mic to the headset input on the front of the GoXLR Mini. You do want to use a proper XLR cable where it has a male to female XLR end. This will give you a better preamp, more power. It's built for an XLR microphone, so do definitely use this input instead of the headset input on the front. So we're going to connect this and plug it into the back of the GoXLR. Next, for the Rode PodMic, I do recommend a bigger windscreen than what comes with it. This microphone is marketed as having good plosive protection when you make P and B sounds right into the microphone. I don't find it all that good. For an extra 10 bucks, I do recommend the larger windscreen. If you are looking for one, we do have some links down in the description below. You can put that on. Next, let's set up the gain for the Rode PodMic. So now you can hear the Rode PodMic here. Before, you were listening to the lav mic that I have clipped onto my jacket here. And for this microphone, for me and my voice, I recommend that you set it to about 55 decibels of gain. It is recommended that you put this on the dynamic microphone setting because the Rode PodMic is a dynamic microphone. You don't need to use the condenser 48 volts option. It shouldn't hurt the mic in any way. You would need to use the condenser mic option if you are using a cloud lifter, but with all the testing that we've done, I don't think a cloud lifter is necessary with the GoXLR Mini, so you don't need to use that for this, and definitely don't use the 3.5 millimeter. So set it to dynamic and then set it somewhere in the range of 55 decibels. You can see here as I'm speaking that we're right in the middle of the good section as I speak naturally throughout my live stream or this video recording. That's right where you do want to be. You can see I'm a little on the low side. For me, maybe I'll bump it up to 56. That would put us closer to the high side of middle there, and that's a setting that we're going to use. So I'm going to click OK. Next, we can set up the gate. What the noise gate does is it essentially auto mutes your mic when you're not speaking into it. How it does that is it sets a threshold, and when you break that threshold, as the microphone captures more sound than what your threshold is set to, it breaks the noise gate and activates the microphone. A noise gate comes from the live sound world. Famously, they're used all the time on drum kits. That's the best example of when you would want a noise gate. If you can imagine a drum kit, there's probably 6 or 7 microphones on the drum kit at any given time. The snare, the rack toms, the floor toms, the cymbals, the hi-hat. And when you hit the snare, you don't want the microphone over on the floor tom to activate. So what you do is you set a noise gate. All your drums are very loud. So as you hit the snare, you want it to quickly break that noise gate, open up that microphone, let the sound through, and when you're done hitting the snare drum, you want that microphone to automatically mute. Likewise, as you move across the drum set, you do want it to auto mute and turn off the mics to a certain extent, and it gives you much better control. The same thing for live streaming. If you're in a loud environment, if you have something like a fan or you have a really loud PC right beside the microphone, or if there's background noise in your recording environment, you might want a noise gate to automatically mute the microphone when you're not speaking into it. This is really good for if you live with roommates or something like that. It'll help to mute the microphone when you're not right up on the microphone like I am in this video. The downside of a noise gate is that sometimes you can hear it clicking in and out. So we're going to play with some settings here. You should be able to hear it click in and out. For a live stream, it's not super bad if you hear that noise gate clicking in and out, because it is masked by the game noise that you're live streaming. That being said, if you're doing a video like what I'm doing right now, that could be distracting if you kind of hear that noise floor kicking in and out. So for a talking head video like this one, I'd recommend no noise gate. But if you can mask it with live sound or a game sound or something like that with your live stream, then go ahead and use the noise gate. We're going to walk through some settings now. Let's get put on my headphones so I can hear what I'm doing. So before I raise the threshold, I'm just going to set the attenuation to 100%. I'll explain that in a minute. So as we raise the threshold here, hear the noise gate click and out. It's muting the microphone. And as you can hear, it's way too aggressive right now. It's actually muting me when I'm speaking into the microphone. So for me, I like to keep this somewhere around -55. I keep it really conservative so the noise gate will break and open up the microphone very easily if I'm speaking into it. You can be more aggressive with it, but you do risk clipping syllables like you just heard when I was setting it too aggressively. So do keep that in mind. Next, the attenuation is how much of the microphone sound is getting muted when the noise gate is closed. For me, I like to set this somewhere around 50%. Again, it's nice and conservative so you don't hear the noise gate clicking in and out all the time. So if the noise gate is in and your microphone is muted, it's really only silencing about 50% of the input. This makes it sound a little bit more natural as it comes in and out. You may want to play with these a little bit depending on your environment, but if you're in a relatively quiet environment like I am right now, -55 and 50% on the attenuation is a really good setting. I don't recommend going any more aggressive than -50 or -45. That's when you start to get into trouble where the noise gate actually becomes more of a distraction than it's worth. For this video, like I explained earlier, I am going to turn it off now just because it is distracting when I'm in a closed studio environment for a talking head video like this. But this is how I would set it if I was in a live stream and the noise gate is masked by game sound. Okay, so next we have the EQ. I'm going to open up the EQ here. So the goal of the EQ, if you like the way that the Rode PodMic sounds and you're doing a video like I'm doing right now, just leave the EQ flat. That's why you bought this microphone. You like the way it sounds. But what I tend to do with EQ for live streams is I want to make gaps in the microphone frequency range to make space for the game noise. You don't want everything competing for the same frequencies. You want to be able to hear the microphone clearly above the game noise. So we're going to do some bumps and some cuts to make this more clear, but while making room for the game sounds in your live stream. Another way to think about what I'm going to explain here is if you're miking a live band or if you're attending a concert, you'll have something like an acoustic guitar, a piano, and a vocalist that have the option to all be competing in the same frequency range. Likewise for the bass guitar and the kick drum. So what you need to do with EQ is you kind of need to slot all of them in to their own frequency range. So when you stand back from the mix, you can clearly hear each instrument in its own space and you don't hear those frequencies competing too much or creating too much mud. That's what we're trying to do with this setting here. So in order to get the best options possible, I am going to turn on this enable fine tune button here and expand it. So what that fine tune button does is it allows us to swing the frequencies if we want while we're tuning this microphone. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the 30 Hertz here all the way down to 0. This is basically creating a high pass filter or a bass roll off on the bottom end of this microphone. It's basically taking this microphone right out of the subwoofer of your guests who are watching your live stream. There's nothing useful in your voice in the sub frequencies like that. It does boost it a little bit, but in terms of a live stream, it's not going to help you stand out amongst the game noise, and that's where a lot of game noise and special effects tends to hang out, so we're just going to separate these two. Now, depending on most people's subs as they're watching your live stream, it'll tend to roll in to the mid-range speaker somewhere around 80 to 120 Hertz. So for me, I'm just going to leave this at 120 Hertz here. I'm just going to type it in 120. And this will make sure that the bass roll in is back to 100% by the time it hits 120 hertz. This is very common. If you do have a voice that is a little bit higher than my voice is quite deep, you may want to extend the low range of your filter here all the way down to 100 hertz. You can do that by just clicking it and typing 100, and that will give you a little bit stronger low end. But for my voice, I'm going to set it to 120. Next, you can see here that I've already typed it in, but I'm going to type in 400 hertz, and I'm going to do a mid cut of -2. You're going to really hear this microphone open up here. That really just puts a mid-low scoop in. Again, this is where a lot of video game noise is, and it's where a lot of mud from your voice is. So removing that frequency, that's a common thing that I do on almost every vocal mic in a live sound environment or live streaming or anything like that. It just creates more clarity in the voice. The next options here is that we're going to go to 2K and 2.5K or 2.6K. We're going to boost those by 1 or 2 each. So the main clarity of your voice comes between 1.5K and 3K, somewhere in there, depending on your voice. That's where the real articulation and the clarity comes from. So by boosting that, we're helping you stand out amongst the game noise so people can hear you no matter what you're doing in your live stream. Next, we're going to go to the high end of this EQ graph. We're going to type in 12 kilohertz, and we're going to drop it off by -3. Most vocal microphones have a cliff after 10 kilohertz anyway. So by cutting it after 12 kilohertz, this really does just create more space. Again, a lot of special effects are above 10K in video games and that type of thing. So we're just creating more room for those frequencies. So this will help your microphone be much more clear, less muddy, and stand out amongst the game noise. Next, we're going to set the compressor for this microphone. What the compressor does is it really narrows the dynamic range or the volume level, depending how you think about it, for your live stream. This makes sure that if you get really excited, it'll squish your volume for you automatically so you don't have to turn yourself down. Likewise, if your energy tends to drift a little bit throughout your live stream, this will bump it up just a little bit to make sure that your voice is always within that desired range for your live stream, and you're not having to turn the fader up and down too much throughout the live stream. This will automate some of that. Now, the risk of over compressing is that it basically sounds like a limiter. It'll make you sound like a robot, and it'll take all the emotion, all the swing out of your voice. And emotion is very important on a live stream. We want to use this as a tool. We don't want to use it as a crutch. So what it's going to do is just going to narrow that dynamic range, make the loudest parts a little bit quieter, make the quietest parts just a little bit louder, which will improve the audio consistency for your live stream. So we're going to lower the threshold here to about -15. What this does is now everything over -15, 0 is where we clip, so -15, everything over that will now get compressed by 3.2 to 1. If you want a more aggressive compressor, you can go to 4 to 1, but keep in mind that 3.2 to 1 is already quite aggressive. Everything over -15 is getting squashed 3 to 1. So that does take quite a bit of the dynamics out, but it's still in the range of being pretty good and flexible and allowing that emotion to come through. The attack and the release at 2 milliseconds and 100 milliseconds respectively are set great. Those are good. And then we're going to add about 5 dB of makeup gain here. So this is going to make the quietest parts of this microphone just a little bit louder. So this is going to push us up into that compressor a little bit, and then it's going to squash it down into that narrower dynamic range. I really do wish that the GoXLR Mini here had a graph showing you the compressor squish. It is pretty interesting to learn. It's a good way to watch and see what's actually going on, but we don't have that option. But maybe you can hear it, maybe you can't. Sometimes it takes a while to learn how to listen for the working compressor there, but this is the setting that I would use and what I recommend. Now, this isn't the full GoXLR, so we don't have the de-esser that is available with that. If you want our recommendation for that setting, we have a Rode PodMic and the full GoXLR tutorial where we recommend a setting for how to use the de-esser on that. Again, if you are looking for pricing or specs for anything that you've seen in this video, we do have some links down in the description below. If you have any questions, if there's anything you were expecting in this video and you didn't see, or you have any more questions about setting up the Rode PodMic with the GoXLR Mini, please leave a comment down in the comment section below. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.